Welcome to the meeting. And we're going to discover something this evening that's going to, I hope, stir your thinking about how you live and how you think. Totally important. It's titled, Come Apart and Rest a While. Now, does this look like relaxing? Look at that cougar on the log. That's a relaxing cat, no stress. And this frog, of course, I think that's photoshopped in there, but you get the idea, right? It's just, there they are, resting and relaxing. This reminds me of our place in Bay St. Anne. When Jeannie and I go walking on the beach, and we have 3 kilometers of beach, and there's never anybody on it. Nice sandy beach, and we just go there, lay down in the sunshine, nice negatively charged air, and it's just a beautiful place to release all stress. And we talk about things and work and physical health and all kinds of things. But it's titled, Come Apart and Rest a While, or Come Apart. Because a lot of people are coming apart, and they don't even know it. Now, notice this. Human sleep is regulated by a circadian clock located in a tiny cone-shaped but essential intersection of cells in the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. You can see right here. It's right there in the brain. And it's also affected by light. It is in turn fed by ganglion cells in the retina, which take their cues from light and dark cycles. That is, the rising and setting sun. Notice that, the rising and setting sun. The main determinant of when we want to wake up and when we want to sleep is light. And we create a false environment, you may have noticed, by having lights in our houses. Our body's made to think it's still daylight, I can still stay up. But you know, the healthiest people are those who go to bed when the sun goes down and get up when the sun comes up. All the animals in nature do, except for the nocturnal ones, they obey the opposite clock. And so, I guess I push the button, but nothing happens. A hamster kept awake for 3 days will die. Randy Gardner, a high school student, stayed awake for a record of just over 11 days as part of a 1964 Stanford University study. By the end, he couldn't talk. So how important is sleep? People do not realize when you're not getting enough sleep, your whole body is in disarray. Nothing is functioning properly. So most people overestimate the amount of sleep they've had. Pennsylvania's Dr. Dinges estimates that 7.5 to 8 hours in bed snuggles down to about 6.3 actual hours of shut-eye or sleep. Also, even the circadian larks, that's a lark is up early in the morning, keep going till late at night. Well, the 20% of the population who are early risers and can resist the effects of sleeplessness better than others eventually have problems, Dr. Dinges says. And that's true, even though they don't even recognize it. So it is Dr. Dinges and a group of colleagues who demonstrated over the past decade just how impairing sleep loss can be. In one of the most extensive sleep studies ever undertaken, the researchers restricted the sleep of their subjects continuously for 2 weeks while administering psychomotor vigilance tests, that's PVT, psychomotor vigilance tests, every day. The PVT requires a subject to press a button every time a signal appears on the screen. It's not a hard test. So basically, it's almost like, are you cognizant? There's something on the screen. Oh, push the button. Right. So every day they had those kind of tests to see what was happening with them as their sleep was more and more deprived. Interesting what he found. The findings were, what's that word? Terrifying to this doctor. He hadn't realized when he got into it that this was so detrimental. The performances of people who got 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night declined steadily with every passing day. By the 6th day, a quarter of the 6 hours group was falling asleep at the computer, lapsing into 5 times as many micro-sleeps as they had on day 1. This is just a steady stream, and they saw a constant decline of these people. But look at this. Working memory, accuracy, and speed collapsed. They couldn't even point to the screen and figure out, am I supposed to point now? Or it was just disappearing on them. This was just so shocking when I studied this. Also, there's another doctor, Dr. Gregory Belenke. He heads the Sleep and Performance Research Center at Washington State University in Spokane, performed much the same experiment on subjects who got 7 hours sleep a night more than the average North American. The 7-hour crowd's scores slowed for 3 days, then plateaued at a lower rate of performance. He found they insisted they were not impaired in any way, despite their drooping PVT scores. The first thing sleep deprivation knocks out, in other words, is your ability to tell if you're sleep deprived. I feel just fine. I feel perfectly all right. But guess what? Something is happening underneath the surface. Something you do not immediately perceive, but others can perceive it of you. Your tasks won't be performed as good. And forget about paying off your sleep debt. It'll take several weeks to get performance back, Dr. Belenke says, and it isn't enough to sleep in on the weekends. It doesn't repay the load that's been taken. Okay? Anything less than 5 minutes to fall asleep at night means you're sleep deprived. The ideal is between 10 and 15 minutes, meaning you're still tired enough to sleep deeply, but not so exhausted you feel sleepy by day. Has anyone ever had their head hit the pillow and they can't remember anything else after that? Boom, gone? That shows you're sleep deprived. Usually, I like to lay there and I think about the day for a little bit, 10, 15 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, and then I'm off to sleep. So I'm not sleep deprived. But that's not always the case. I know now by my studies, when I am sleep deprived, if I hit the pillow and bang, you don't remember a thing, that means you haven't gotten enough sleep in the past few days. And this is so important, every single soul, every single person. So in the spirit of prophecy, I want you to bear with me for a few minutes. I've got some really interesting stats here and things that Ellen White has given us. Many indulge in the pernicious habit of eating just before retiring. By indulging this wrong practice, it becomes a habit, and they feel as though they could not sleep without food. I've known people like that. Patients come to my office, I've got to have something to eat or I can't get to sleep. The sleep of such is often disturbed with unpleasant dreams, and in the morning they awake unrefreshed. You ever had that happen to you? Yeah. It is a sin to be ignorant of how to care for the wants of this habitation God has given us. Especially should brain workers begin to be soothed and not in any way excited as they draw near their hours for sleep. Do you understand what that is saying? Stop doing your brain work and start thinking about sleep. Relaxing things. Look at peaceful pictures before retiring for bed so your brain is ready to go to sleep. She says, God designed that the night shall be given to sleep. Very important. If we are not aroused to obey the laws God has established in our being, we need not expect that the Lord will work a miracle to counteract our own wrong course of action. Break up every habit that is the least injurious to health. For this, God requires of us. Then we may ask God in faith to help us, and He will do it. Don't you just love the mercy that God has for each of us? Even though we sin, and some of us just on purpose, He still is waiting to provide the mercy He delights to give. Now, it's important that you know that because we are so self-condemning. We figure God's going to treat us the same way we treat ourselves or treat each other. Wow. But how sweet is rest after a proper amount of labor? Sleep, nature's sweet restorer, invigorates the weary body and prepares it for the next day's duties. It's important. Very important. Oh, how many times has a good meal, as it is called, been purchased at the expense of sleep and quiet rest? How often have we had things that maybe have a war in our stomach, but we like the taste? And as a result, we have poor sleep. And we never do that again, right? I'm glad for thy mercy, O Lord. But we've got to learn to start treating this habitation with respect and reverence. Air must be in constant circulation to be kept pure. It excites the appetite and renders the digestion of food more perfect and induces sound and sweet sleep. How many, when you're going to sleep at night, have windows open in your room with air circulating, not directly over your throat or your head, but somewhere in the room with air circulating? That is so important. If you sleep in a room that's totally closed in, it better be a very large one. So there's lots of room for the air to be breathed out and good air breathed in. But still you want circulating air. So important to being healthy. Now this, in regulating the hours for sleep, there should be no haphazard work. That means take it seriously. Design, if you will, when it is you're going to be sleeping and start to plan for it. That's what she's saying. It is so important. So very important. Something to really think about. There is a hidden weapon which literally causes you to come apart. Like I was saying in the beginning, come apart and rest a while, or come apart. It annihilates every effort to become healthy and underscores the destruction of every good intention. Oh, you might eat the right things and exercise and get the sunshine and the fresh air and the water. And I'll tell you, there is something that will literally destroy every one of those good habits, practices. Can anybody guess what it might be? Ha, look. Ooh. Whoa. Gotcha. Stress. I'm going to show you exactly how. And I'm taking more time of the lecture to discuss with you the aspects and the findings on stress. And you're going to see how it not only affects your sleep, but it's going to affect every single part of your life. Every single part. So it's called the silent killer, stress. Look at this picture. How does that make you feel when you look at those buildings? This is New York, of course. How do you feel? Does anybody feel tight? Like, I can remember being in New York with Jeannie, and we were trying to find our way out of New York. We ended up by the Statue of Liberty. How did we get there? We weren't even heading in this direction. So we got out, enjoyed the Statue of Liberty, took some pictures, then got in the car and decided we were going to drive home. Good night. We ended up in the Bronx. Everywhere you could. Why does he always end up in the Bronx whenever you end up in New York City? Isn't that strange how that happens? But we were downtown Manhattan trying to get out of the city. And every person we asked, we'd say, how do you get up to the highway to get to Canada? We don't know. I don't know. And Jeannie and I, for the first time, discovered why there's so many people in New York City. Nobody knows how to get out. Because even the police officers. So Jeannie had a great idea. Brain nice and clear. She said, why don't we just head north? And eventually, we'd have to come to Canada. I said, that's a good conclusion. Let's do that. So we start driving north. The pain ended up at Grand Central Station, the place where people, when the phone's ringing a lot, they say Grand Central Station, right? Busy place. Immediately, I veered to the right. I'm not going into Grand Central Station. We kept going north, and we got to the highway and came back to Canada. But I'll tell you, I was just so shocked. But look at that. Does that cause you stress to think about that? Look, imagine living there. Whoa. You wake up in the morning, you're surrounded with blowing horns, and it's just a cement jungle. Look at that picture. I want you to look at it and just find a sentence in your mind that describes how you feel as you look at it. Some might say, I feel tight. Some might say, I feel really stressed. Some might say, I'm looking forward to all the stores, you know. But not me. There's a lot of stuff there. But notice how you feel looking at that picture. Notice how you feel looking at this picture, at these buildings. Does that provide a different... Can you feel a change in your brain? You should. If you're really focused on the pictures, you will feel a change. Look at this one. Look at these lights. I used to live here. This is LA, right? I used to live there. I loved it in LA at the time. Today, no, I don't think so. But look at those lights. How do you feel? This is a view, I believe, from 77 Sunset Strip, the restaurant called Chez Denis. I used to go there every night, and I'd overlook LA, all the lights. And anyway, looking at that, how do you feel? And how do you feel looking at these lights? You know, like, what a difference, right? Does it provide it? Can you feel that change in your system as you look at one picture or the other? Look at this. This is LA again. Here we go. Driving on these highways. How would you feel on these highways versus how do you feel on these highways? Walking through a beautiful planted garden. What about this? Can you imagine driving to work and looking at this versus driving to work and looking at this? That's quite a difference, isn't it? That's quite a difference. What about this? Driving home, seeing this road, or walking home on this road. You know, there's a rest that God wants to give to us, and it cannot be found in what man has made. It's only found in what God has made. And by the way, I wonder how the holy city must look. It can be nothing like LA or New York. It must be absolutely incredibly peaceful and tranquil. All right, other thoughts here. What's this? Can anybody identify that? Do you know what that is? Huh? You say it's Korean? It's actually a Chinese stop sign. I've got this up there for a reason. It's a Chinese stop sign. What about this one? What is it? A yield sign. First thing it says yield sign. That's a Japanese stop sign. Now, if you were driving a car in one of those two countries, do you think you'd get in trouble? And tell me, why would you get in trouble? Because you don't know what the signs mean. You don't know, do you? And that's why you'd get in trouble. Well, I want to show you something absolutely eye-opening. Do you know what the signs of stress are? Did you know that most people do not recognize, understand, or comprehend the amount of stress that is actually in their life and which is affecting their health in a very negative way? Most people, I'm talking over 90% of people, don't understand. Well, here are 20 signs of too much stress. And the first one is going to be obesity and overeating. That is a sign of stress. There are 20. We're going to get to a lot of them. Some of these first ones might not apply to you, but keep looking. Excessive alcohol use. That is a sign of stress. You see an alcoholic, do you think their life is peaceful? No. Sign of stress. Loss of appetite, anorexia. Sign of stress. These are big ones. People smoke more. I used to smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day. I'd light one in the morning, and I wouldn't have to strike another match throughout the day. I just chain smoked through my meals, through everything. And I thought I was a fairly calm person. But my wife will tell you, was I hyper, sweetheart? And she was hyper too. I worked 3 jobs, and I worked about 4. She worked 4 or 5 jobs. And we were just hyper. Sign of stress. Increased coffee drinking. I drank 30 cups a day. Do you think maybe I had stress with all the cigarettes and coffee? And I had 2 heaping sugars in each cup. So whenever anybody says, oh, you've been into health all your life. No, I've been in the worst state of health that anybody can be in, basically. And the Lord brought me out of it through me acting upon the knowledge He allowed me to discover. Now that's an important factor right there. The knowledge He allows us to have. Second, people irritate you more. That's a sign you are stressed. So take that into consideration. People, you're driving in traffic and somebody cuts you off. Right? You're irritated by people. When the day comes that a person cuts you off and you go, oh, they're having a bad day, you know your stress load's greatly diminished. Substance abuse. That is a sign of stress. Can't make decisions. Anybody have that problem? You ever notice that about yourself? That is a sign of too much stress in the life. Can't make decisions on something. Unable to concentrate. Notice that? These are all signs of stress now. Keep that in mind. Increased and suppressed anger. Sign of too much stress. You may be able to identify some of these things in your life. If you have 2 or more of these, you need to do something about your stress load. because it's going to kill you. It's going to shorten your life. Lose your sense of humor. That's a sign of stress. People will tell you something and you don't get it. Maybe you would have gotten it years ago, but you don't get it. It's a sign you're just, it's nothing to do with blonde hair or anything. This is a sign of stress, right? Totally. You become paranoid. Things cause you to become afraid that never bothered you before. You become concerned about things that never bothered you. Also, feeling out of control. Out of control. We've had so many people come to the center and fill out a form and they feel out of control of their life. That's a key one, feeling out of control. Like somebody else is controlling your life. That's really stressful. Also, you do not finish things. That's an important one. So many people take up a task and it gets put aside. Why? Because of stress. They got something else they have to finish and something else. They never finish the one thing. Next one, excessive emotion and crying. That's a sign of stress. This can be a form of escape from the stress load by trying to dance around the stress, not acknowledging the stress. Also, your only interest is work. Boy, sign of stress. Find yourself with 2 or more of these? If you do, you get some serious stress. Your only thing is work. And I've been here at a lot of these. But I don't have a lot of these anymore. A few of them, yeah. But I'm dealing with them. I'm dealing with them. Now, permanently tired. How many cases of chronic fatigue syndrome come into my office? I can't even begin to count. Chronic fatigue syndrome. I'm going to ask them, how's your stress level? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really stressful and 1 being no stress. And they'll go, oh, 5. And meanwhile, I look at their eyes and I can see all the blood vessels indicating very great stress in the brain. And underneath the eyelashes and just total stress. When you look at them and their hands going, oh, I'm not stressed at all. How long have I got? Excuse me. It's true. Decreased sex drive. Sign of too much stress. Did you know that we were made to enjoy our physical apparatus? And so many people don't. They don't. And that's going to cause stress. And nail biting, another sign of stress. And last, but certainly not least, change jobs often. Change jobs often. So many people go from job to job to job to job to job. Sign of stress. Wow. Okay. Now, those who make great exertions to accomplish just so much work in a given time and continue to labor when their judgment tells them they should rest are never gainers. They are living on borrowed capital. They are expending the vital force which they will need at a future time. God has provided us with constitutional force which will be needed at different periods of our lives. If we recklessly exhaust this force by continual overtaxation, we shall sometime be the losers. That is brilliant guidance that's been given to us as a church. Wow. Incredible. And you're going to see just exactly how important that is. So, this vital force that's talked about here, that is actually can be considered an enzyme bank, is your vital force. When you are born, we're going to take a look at a lifeline first. When you're born, you're given a certain amount of enzyme bank from your parents. Here are the ages, but here's the bank right here. I just put it as a bottle. So if your parents have a lot of vital force, both of them do, you're going to inherit a good enzyme bank, which means you got a full bottle to start with, right? So that is called your life potential. Your longevity, your health, everything is dependent upon that. So if we take a look at this, what if we choose to party hardy, eat all the wrong foods, stay up late, do all the things that we know are not conducive to health? How does that affect the enzyme bank? And you may feel fantastic. You're ready to party every weekend, stay out late, go to bed, get a few hours sleep, wake up, do it all over again. You may be feeling good right up till age 30, 40 even. Take a look. If you do, your body is going to use enzymes to keep your system running. And so if you live like this, at about age 30, you may have half your enzyme bank gone and you don't even know it. Till one day you end up in the doctor's office and everything seems to fall apart. Okay? So you're burning up vital force by living wrong, even by thinking wrong. You're burning up very necessary vital force. So I want to show you something rather interesting that Ellen White said. She says tea, coffee, or flesh meats, these are all too stimulating, too great attacks to the nervous system. They do not impart strength, but take the strength from the nerves and use reserve force, vital force. This is backing up what I just gave to you. You're using up the life force that God needs you to have to perform His will in your life. So you could be living till 90, but if you party hardy, you may only live till 60 or 65. And then it's over. And you could have had a longer, more beneficial life to humanity and to yourself. But no. So now, when we eat the wrong way, and when we have a lot of stress in our systems, we create what is called free radicals in our system. And free radicals bounce around and do a lot of damage. But here's how they're created specifically. It's by heat. So as heat comes across an atom in a food, its electrons around the atom become damaged, and this produces a free radical scavenger. So now the paired electrons are now damaged, so some of them don't have an electron to pair off the electron pairs. So what does that do in your body? They bombard tissues to find another electron to pair themselves off with. Okay, so they want to do that, and that's going to cause damage to the body. What's the answer? All those bad foods, that the fellow was eating there. Answer is antioxidants. Antioxidants are very negatively charged, and they carry around a lot of extra electrons. You'll find all your antioxidants in some foods in particular. And we're going to get to those kind of foods. In fact, you'll see them on one of our programs, one of our presentations. If you watch the whole series, you're going to get a whole load. But basically, all your berries contain a lot of antioxidants in them. So berries are great food for that. But antioxidants provide the missing electrons which were destroyed in the heating process, thus preventing any further damage to the body. So when they come across these free radicals, look what happens. Boom, boom, boom. Now you're no longer a free radical, which means your body's no longer damaged. Stress can cause this to happen. Wrong foods can cause this to happen. So you keep that in mind. Now, back to our scale. Look at this fellow. What if he decided to live the right life? What if he'd done it right from the very beginning even, and had the right food, the exercise, the sunshine, the fresh air, all these things? Well, maybe instead of burning up the vital force by age 50 or 40, it would have been burned up at age 60, lost half the vital force. That means they could go to 100, 120. And wouldn't that be a nice life to live? Nice and long and healthful to boot. This way you could live longer to bless others, your family and loved ones included. From the pen of inspiration, while nothing is gained by despondency, much is lost. While cheerfulness and a calm resignation and peace will make others happy and healthy, it will be of the greatest benefit to one's self. Sadness and talking of disagreeable things is encouraging the disagreeable scenes, bringing back upon oneself the disagreeable effect. That is such an important statement. Do you realize that if you've got upset that's happening in your life, and you keep thinking about the situation, you are damaging your body again and again. By reliving that, it's having the same effect on your body as it had when you first experienced it. So you're damaging and damaging and damaging, focusing on the negative. Remember that song in the late 50s, Accentuate the Positive? Yeah, that was a good song. That's a true song. You've got to look at the positive things in life. God wants us to forget all these. He doesn't want you to hold on to them. And now can you understand why he doesn't? It says about Jesus, he came that we might have life and that we might have it more abundantly. And again he says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. We were never designed to carry stress. Think about it. Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, did they have stress? Nope. That means when man was created, stress was not a part of the program. And so here we are in a world that's filled with stress, a world that calls us to think about giving into that stress, and yet there's no need to have stress or carry it. We can give it to the burden bearer, to Christ. We're going to show you some more detrimental effects of this. She says, do not look down, but up. And then she says it again, up, which means saying, do not look down, look up, up. Take your focus off the earth and focus on the reality of what is to come. Also, sadness deadens the circulation in the blood vessels and nerves, and also retards the action of the liver. It hinders the process of digestion and of nutrition, and has a tendency to dry up the marrow of the whole system. Is that validated in Scripture anywhere? Isn't it Proverbs chapter 17, I think verse 22? A broken spirit drieth the bones, but a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. And further on in this presentation, you're going to see why that scripture is absolutely brilliant and totally true. Kind of interesting. I look at these zebras, or zebras as they're called in South Africa. This is on the plains of the Serengeti, well, actually in Kruger National Park, got that shot. Now, notice the zebras, I'm speaking in both dialects now. Notice them eating away, but one's got its head up. You don't suppose it's thinking, oh, I wonder if there's a lion around here. I wonder if there's one lurking in the grass somewhere and I've got to watch my food with great diligence. Something could happen. Do you think that's how the zebra thinks? No, I watch them. They never panic until the actual event takes place. They only respond when necessary. When the lion shows up, whoa, that's what happens. You've got about, 1 minute of all the adrenaline and all the hormones rushing through the zebra's system. And in 1 minute, it's over. Either the zebra's lunch or the zebra escapes. But guess what happens when the zebra escapes? All the hormones, the stress hormones, disappear immediately, and the zebra goes right back to... Doesn't think about that lion almost got me, or telling others, did you see what almost happened to me? Oh man, that was bad. No, let's eat grass again. We could learn a lesson from this. We could really learn a lesson from it. So now as humans, our stress response is usually activated psychologically. The stress response of animals is activated physiologically. This means we think it, they live it. It has to be an actuality for them. For us, it doesn't have to be actuality. It's just there. We get up in the morning, look at that. They react to real situations. We react to imagined situations. Now that's interesting. You're driving to work. Well, we bathe ourselves in stress hormones all day compared to that zebra in the Serengeti. Do you know why? The alarm clock goes off, and right away you are just bombarded. Whoop, instantly you're jolted out of sleep and say, oh, what time is it? Oh, I hope not late. Get up, have the shower, get the breakfast, head to work. Maybe if you're living in Vancouver, oh, dear me, you're driving in all this traffic and the radio's playing and the weather's going to be rotten and you're bombarded. What'll the boss say? I'm going to be late. And we've got all this imagined stress taking place. Jeannie and I live in little old Bay St. Anne in New Brunswick, and it's just one long street in front of us, and at one end is a fish plant. And at the other end is a co-op, and there's no traffic lights. It's just one little street, one little place, and it's so stressless to live there. And when we come to Vancouver, whoa, I used to love these places, and now I dread them. You know, we can change our thinking. Having the stress and all this, I call it stinking thinking. That's what it is, because it's not going to do you any good. So now, think about this. There's all that stress happening, and this is something that if we got those stress hormones bathing our organs all day long, what is that going to do to us? And the reason why I'm going through this is because I'm going to show you how important that stress is to you getting full benefit from your food, full benefit from your exercise, full benefit from breathing, full benefit from everything. The vast majority of mental stress is self-inflicted, by trying to meet the expectations of others, whether they are real or perceived. Now, what if you're driving to work? What if the boss isn't even there today? But yet, you've got the boss upset with you already. Why don't you wait till you get there before you see the lion come out of the grass? Just keep eating. Just enjoy your life. In Newfoundland, we had a saying when I was growing up. It was, you don't have to eat the soup as hot as they serve it. Wait till it cools off to the temperature you like, and then enjoy it. But life has us in a blender as a rule. And people are just bombarded with all the things they need to do, they have to do, and you can't do that. You've got to have your own circle where you are comfortable and productive. And everything else outside of that is interruptive. It's interruptive and should not upset you or affect you in any kind of an adverse way. So, every cellular structure in your body experiences every emotion your brain produces because they are all inextricably linked together through the nervous system. So the thought patterns affect every other organ in the body, and every other organ in the turn affects the brain. I notice this poor, stressed out young woman. Everything she thinks is going to affect her joints, going to affect her muscles. It's going to depend on what she inherited genetically. For instance, if you inherit weak lungs, then the stresses your brain is experiencing are going to affect your lungs in an adverse way. And I don't care what you're eating, how you're living, or anything. The stress is going to affect your lungs. You can say, I don't know why I got this lung problem. I'm doing everything right. But your stress is negating everything you're doing. That's very important. If you inherit a weak heart, that's where it's going to show up, or a pancreas that's not functioning right, or is weak rather, you're going to end up with pancreatic problems. Could be pancreatitis and things like this. Or if it's a liver or your stomach or even in your bowels, digestive problems, elimination problems, stresses can affect everything. I'm eating all the bran, I'm doing bowel cleanses, and still I have a problem with my bowels. No, you have a problem with your stress. And it's preventing the body from working properly. With some people, it affects their spine. It depends on your genetic makeup. And this can give you a very, very sore back. With others, it affects the immune system. So now all your immune system, which should be functioning properly, is put on hold. You've heard of the fight or flight syndrome, Boy, important stuff. Now, the reverse is also true. So if you have wonderful, happy thoughts about good things that are coming up and you choose to dwell on the things that are good, then it has a very positive effect on your lungs and your heart and your stomach and your bowels. It has a very positive effect. Do you know that how you think can prevent you from healing? Totally prevents you from healing. Oh boy. Do not carry unforgiveness because it will kill you. He doesn't look very forgiving, does he? The little kid's got a problem. I like that picture myself. It just spoke 1,000 words to me, right? But I'll tell you what you think about me does not affect me. It affects you. If you harbor those ill feelings, it's sending that message to every single cell in your body. And you need to understand forgiveness is a very great part of healing your body. Nothing like it. Also, I want to point out, you need to forgive yourself. So many people condemn themselves. You need to think about that one. All of these organs, the effect of stress on your internal organs. Let me show you a few things. Kind of interesting. The adrenal glands, they're usually one of the first organs affected by stress. Fear triggers the adrenal glands, which are just above the kidneys, and this affects the kidneys. Now, there's the kidneys, and here are the adrenal glands right here. So just so you know what it is I'm talking about, the glands. So, adrenal function becomes strained by this fear component of stress, producing a constant fight or flight condition. In time, this exhausts the adrenals, producing an even deeper tiredness. At this point, many take stimulants for their tiredness, believing that the stimulants will produce more energy. And I'm sure that's why I had all that coffee and all that. That's what I needed because my adrenals were literally being whipped and something had to stimulate me into action. So there I was doing that. Now, a constant fight or flight condition. You might think, well, I have no worries, so I have no fight or flight condition. But actually, if you've got to examine all the reasons or all the different things that tell you you're under stress, examine them all. And if you've got 2 or 3 of them, you've got stress that maybe you haven't recognized before, and you've got to start dealing with it in a very positive way. Could be work, could be relationships, could be a sense of failure. All of these things cause stress in your system, every single one of them. In the spleen, stress consumes a large amount of the vital force produced by the spleen. Do you know what the spleen looks like? Anyone? You know, as Jeannie has said before, we know more about our automobiles than we do about these wonderful bodies which God has given us. The spleen looks like this, okay? With less vital force in the spleen, heat production diminishes and circulation to the extremities is compromised. Anybody with cold hands, cold feet, cold limbs? And no matter what you take, you can't seem to heat up. Well, could be a very good reason for it. No health professional can help you. I'm going to show you how to help yourself. Because your circulation should bring lots of good blood, but the spleen provides lots of power to the blood. And if it's not able to do its work right due to stress in a lot of cases, you're not going to get the proper heat in your body. So therefore, you will feel cold in the extremities and have pale color of the skin. Less heat also produces subtle constriction of vessels, producing tension, tiredness, and muscle fatigue. That's what stress will do there. Now, can you tell me where the spleen is located? You see these band of organs that I've just put there for you. Anybody know? Would you like me to show you? Let's whip it over into the right place. Right there behind the stomach. Just behind the stomach. Now, if you turn the organs around, there's the stomach right there from behind. And as we look, there's the spleen right there. So front view, anterior view. So you've got an idea of where it is. Very, very important organ. Without that one, you have a hard time being alive. How does it affect the heart? The blood flow and the quality of blood itself are directly affected by the stomach and spleen. The blood carries what we can best be described as balanced electromagnetic fluid, through which all organs are maintained. Should this composition be off in someone having a particular disposition, this can produce palpitations or tachycardia. All stress affects the heart first. All stress. How many people end up in the hospital? How many people in doctors' offices? Do you know that the statistics are over 90% of the people that come to a doctor's office, all of their symptoms are stress-related, and yet they're treated with drug medications to relieve the symptom. You know? And if just sit down and ask them, what's your stress level like? How are you living? How are things at home? How is work at the office? Do you know that we could probably draw a greater conclusion as to why this person is not feeling so good? When a person comes into my office, I spend usually a minimum half an hour with them, sometimes 45 minutes to an hour, talking with them. I want to know what's going on in their life that's producing what I'm seeing in the microscope with their blood. And you know, when people realize how much stress they have and start dealing with it, guess what reappears? Their health. It's amazing. Totally amazing. But just so simple, isn't it? Now, as far as the stomach goes, a clogged stomach means a clogged brain. Tell me, if the brain is clogged, what have you got? Stress. Stress, they are so, the whole body. If one organ in your body is sick, all the organs are sick. If one is super healthy, they're all super healthy. Your body is not a bunch of separate parts. It's one conglomeration of but dependent organs. Every organ is dependent upon another. If a person has a liver problem, that means they have a heart problem, they have a lung problem, they have a pancreas problem, and a bowel problem. All the whole body needs to be treated as a whole. It's not just a separate part, and there's where we run into problems. You can't say, well, I've got a problem with my liver. No, you've got a problem with your body. In essence, you've got a problem with your blood. And beyond that, you've got a problem with stress. If you make really good blood, you'll solve almost every single symptom you've got. And to make good blood, you've got to get rid of stress too. There's no such thing as a heart problem outside of disease now, there's no such thing as a heart, or outside an accident, there's no such thing as a heart problem, a lung problem, a pancreas problem. There's no such thing as a liver problem or a bowel problem. And you may think I'm absolutely crazy because somebody may have those things. No, those are not the problem. The problem is the blood. If you have an aquarium at home and something is wrong with the fish and you phone up a veterinarian, what do they say? Bring me in a sample of the water and we'll find out what's wrong with the fish. Isn't that right? If there's something wrong with your body, bring me in your blood. We'll see what's wrong with your blood, and then we'll find out what's wrong with the body. The human body is like a garden. Your organs are all plants in the garden, and your blood is the soil. And if you make really good soil, you'll make really good plants. And part of that is the stress. You can try to make good blood. If you got the stress, it's not going to work. Why? Isn't the spleen affected? Doesn't the spleen make good blood? Or bad blood? Ah, yes. Of course. Also, she said this, that the affliction of the stomach afflicts the brain. So too much food or the wrong kind of food hinders brain activity. So important to understand. Now, here's something interesting about your thyroid. The thyroid functions in conjunction with the rest of the organs. Sound familiar? It absorbs vital force and nutrients from the blood, creates its own specific compositions, and releases these at a certain point predetermined by the brain. This is normally done at regular intervals and establishes the metabolism of the body. If there is not enough good nutrition due to stress causing poor digestion, the thyroid actually has to work much harder to keep the metabolism constant. This overworking of the thyroid creates a diminished thyroid function and is sometimes perceived as a thyroid problem. Tell me now, is it a thyroid problem? No. I've had a woman come into my office, her thyroid was just huge. All the medications and things she'd been recommended were not working. She'd been on them for 4 years. I gave her a program to do, get rid of all her supplements, everything else, gave her a program to do. You know, she came back in 2 months, thyroid totally normal. Helped her dealing with her stress mode too, and it all worked. You know, the next day, she was scheduled for an ultrasound because the doctor had wanted to take her thyroid out because of the problems she was having. So she went in for the ultrasound. She figured she'd go anyway, keep the appointment. And so the doctor who did the ultrasound said, "What am I looking for here?" And she said, "Well, there's a problem with my thyroid." He goes, "Oh, okay." So he did the thyroid, sent the pictures in. Next morning, her doctor's office phoned her. "We'd like you to come in tomorrow morning for surgery." She said, "Excuse me, my thyroid's fine." They said, "Yes, but it might act up again, so we're just going to take it out just in case." Her family talked her out of the operation. Isn't that something? I mean, it's working. That would have been stressful. She was getting stressed thinking about the operation, losing her thyroid. But we submit to people without asking questions, without doing research. You know, this body was designed to heal itself, and we get in the way. And I'll leave it at that. Now, here's the thyroid, right in through here, right around the voice box, but a better picture right here, you'll see. That's where it is, right located here. And it should remain healthy your whole life. Should you be 100, 120, the thyroid should still be working normal. But in most cases, it's not. Chronically activating the stress response can cause memory problems, increase the risk of depression and anxiety disorders, and even accelerate brain aging. In other words, we humans are smart enough to make ourselves sick with thoughts, emotions, and memories. And we westernized humans live long enough for the consequences to eventually haunt us big time. Professor Robert Sapolsky, Stanford University, in his book, Stress in Your Body, in his body, Stress in Your Book. If you reverse sentences, you're having too much stress. And so he spent 30 years studying baboons in Africa. And he'd get all the stress, find out who was the most stressed, and he'd measure all the stress hormones. And when he got back to studying at Stanford University, you know what he'd say? He loved it better in Africa in the Serengeti. He felt so at ease and so relaxing after 30 years. In fact, he felt the stress mounting up as he was heading back to Stanford University. And I'll show you a picture of Dr. Robert Sapolsky, but I've studied his work, all his classes on stress. Incredible findings that he's had. And I agree, I concur with what he has found. We bathe ourselves in stress hormones. And it is killing us, it really is. So now, chronic or lasting stress releases certain hormones that have been found to, what's that word there? Kill cells in the hippocampus, one of the major memory centers located in the temporal lobes. Stress from having too much to do, day in and day out, or from having unresolved emotional trauma clearly hurts brain function. It's not my words. It's making a good brain great. Dr. Daniel Amen, the world's foremost authority in neurology, the brain. And so the findings are just backing up everything that I've been able to find in the Bible, Spirit of Prophecy. Wow. Okay, take a look at this. Here's a picture of Dr. Robert Sapolsky coming up. During stress, the body diverts blood away from the internal organs to the extremities and other muscle groups where it may be needed in order to remove you from the stressful situation. The response of the body to stress, whether it is real or imagined, is the same. Oh, that tells you a lot. According to Professor Sapolsky, the nervous system reacts the same to psychological stress as it does to physiological stress. And he's done 30 years of investigating to see that is true. But you notice he likes it out with the baboons in Africa. And he just lets it all go, and he's just this easygoing professor, but he hates being at Stanford. He says, I've got to change. It's killing me. It's killing me. All that stress. Papers to do and things to write. Oh boy. But notice nature. All of nature does not operate under stress. None of it does. The seasons change when the earth is ready and not before. And who has appointed the earth its seasons? God. Do you know he wants to look after us the same way he looks after the earth? But we're the only ones out of harmony with God's plan of health and life. Out of harmony. We got to get back in the right mode. Get rid of the stinking thinking and get back into thinking properly. Oh my. Can you imagine? It was stressful when Jeannie and I went to Africa and had to drive out in Johannesburg, South Africa, a lot of people, to get in a car and the steering wheel's on the wrong side. And the mirrors are all reversed, and the gear shift's over here, and I've got to drive in traffic very similar to this at high speeds. Your brain just goes into a strange operating mode. Bang, 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 bang. And it's just you feel the stress coming on. I could feel it. You know? Where everything was before, it's not there. And you're going, where is it? Oh, it's over here now. That was a little bit stressful. But here, I've got you this picture for you to show you something interesting. In Denmark, a Danish study which followed up 2,465 bus drivers over 7 years found that objective workload, as measured by the intensity of traffic on the driver's routes, was the factor most strongly associated with death or admission to hospital with acute myocardial infarction. That's a heart attack. When it says right here, objective workload, that means you're trying to navigate through this to get to your destination at a certain time because the kids have to be to school and what's happening. This was affecting the bus drivers over a 7-year period. And this was measurable as the most greatest cause of them going into hospital. Isn't that something? These things happen to us on a daily basis, and this happens in Vancouver, maybe not this wide, but there's a lot there. And if you think you're not suffering under stress load, think again. You really are. You've got to do something about it, and I tell you, something can be done about it. So, Jesus said, in the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And if he's overcome the world, then where's our source of rest found? Right in Jesus. Amen. John 16, verse 33. Now, I'm going to divert a little bit. This is North America, and this is life, and you are here. We're actually up a little ways up there in Vancouver, but just for the sake of presenting things here, I put you down here in California. There's more people in California than there is in all of Canada. That place is jammed with people, right? But look, now you're here and you're going to live your life and you want to be happy because you see, happiness can be stress related or lack of happiness can be stress related. Did you know that? If I sit in an airport and I look at people, I realize everybody going somewhere and doing something, they're all seeking one thing, happiness. And happiness can only be found where? In accomplishing God's will for us, in surrender to God. That's That's where happiness can be found. So somebody says, you know something? Happiness is found in better job junction. So they say, oh, that sounds good to me. I got to get a better job. Then I'll be happy. How many have been there? Yeah. No hands go up. I know we got a perfectly happy audience here. Nobody's ever failed at anything, right? So you head there in hopes that you're going to find happiness. But guess what happens? It disappears. And somebody says, oh, well, happiness is not found at Better Job Junction. What you need to go is you need to go to More Moneyville. That will give you more happiness. Oh, yeah, hey, because I got bills to pay and kids got to go to university. And I need to go to More Moneyville. So you make the trek, you sell your house, and you go to More Moneyville. But what do you find once you get there? Nope. No happiness there, but somebody says, oh, don't you know that Many Friends Farms is where you need to go? Because if you got lots of friends and you got things to do and everything's happy and peaceful and everything tends to kind of take care of itself. You say, well, I'm going to try this because I've tried other things and they haven't worked. So you go there. And what do you find? Oh my, there's no happiness there. After a while, of course, you enjoy your friends, but your friends say, you know, you need to go to Dream Home Hills. Because if you got that dream home, then you'll be happy, right? Well, you say, okay, it's worth a try. I'll do anything. I want to be happy. So you head there and discover, no, after a while you get too used to the house and somebody sends you a flyer in the mail. You need to go to Long Vacation Valley. Oh, look at this. This is a 6-week tour of this place. You know, great. Leave the house for a while and kind of bored with it. I know I'll be happy there. And so you head there and, oh dear, disappointment happens again. Now you need to go to Retirement Ridge because that's where you're going to be happy, right? Because everything else hasn't worked in retirement. You know, you can go places and do things and you can, oh, it's just great. Just go there. Say, cross the ferry right over here and you get down in Florida. It doesn't happen. And your whole life seems a waste. Well, you know, when you start to get over 45 and over 50 and over 55 and then you're over 60, you start to realize what's important in life and what true happiness really is. And you know, I've come to some conclusions, and that is this. Happiness is not a destination. It is a decision. It's a decision no matter where you are. It is not a thing. It is a thought. Your life should not be a ticking clock. Your life is a single breath. Have you enjoyed your last one? Have you been happy? Have you made that decision that the stress is not going to affect you? Having a better job you're not interested in? You just want to live? Cut things so you can afford to live with the job you have? Enjoy your family, your current friends? You know, there's a lot to be said for that. A tremendous amount. And yet the whole world goes after this. There's the trail. And a lot of times it ends in sickness, severe sickness, and they can't find any causes for it. But guess where it all points to? Stinking thinking. Stinking thinking. So now, this is interesting. This is physiological. Telomeres are DNA protein complexes at the end of chromosomes. You've all heard of chromosomes, right? Okay. That directly affect how quickly cells age. Ooh. That's a good one. How many would like to slow down the aging process? Does stress have anything to do with that? They protect the ends of chromosomes and help them remain stable. Let's compare it to a shoelace. What do you find in the end of a shoelace? Little plastic ends on them, right? What happens when those plastic ends get destroyed? The shoelace starts to fray and come apart, and it doesn't last very long after that, does it? Well, it's the same thing with the chromosomes. The telomeres are on the end of the chromosomes and prevent them from coming apart. That means that the chromosome, if it's kept intact, can reproduce longer and longer and longer. But if you've got telomeres that are wearing away through stress, then you're going to slow down, you're going to increase your aging, so you'll live shorter life. In simple terms, as your telomeres get shorter, your life gets shorter. Telomerase, there's hope. Remember telomere? Well, telomerase is an enzyme that repairs and lengthens telomeres. It means your shoelaces are going to last longer. The plastic gets repaired when it gets frayed. Telomerase is also vital for the maintenance of immune system cells. I've spent the last probably just almost a year studying the whole nervous system intensely, really digging into it, and the immune system, and realizing that your endocrine system, all your hormone production, and your brain, and your nerves, and your immune system are all interrelated. Every single one of them. And it is incredible to me how they all function together to produce health or disease. One or the other. Watch this. Rather interesting. Professor Dean Ornish, well-known doctor, Preventive Medicine Research Institute, Sausalito, California, USA, and colleagues at the University of California, San Francisco, USA, did a pilot study of 30 men diagnosed with low-risk prostate cancer who were asked to make comprehensive lifestyle changes. That's a key thing right there. These consisted of a 3-day intensive residential retreat and a diet with only 10% of calories from fat, low in refined sugars, and rich in whole foods, fruits, and vegetables. Their diet was further supplemented with vitamins and fish oil. They also did moderate aerobic exercise, and notice this, they had stress management also, needed to have that in place. Relaxation techniques were employed and breathing exercises. Telomerase, remember what that is now, that rebuilds the telomeres, right? The telomerase, little enzyme, very important. Telomerase activity was measured at baseline and again at 3 months. 24 patients had sufficient data for analysis. Wait till you see what happened. The researchers found that levels of telomerase in the blood increased by 29%. That was in 3 months. That means their lifespan was increased by how? 29% over 3 months. That is absolutely incredible. So do you see what the research is showing up? So stress management, key factor. Right diet, key factor. All the things are necessary, the 8 natural doctors. Trust in God. Now, this is a little bit of a factory here. This is telomerase, and this is the chromosome right in here with the DNA, and the telomerase is repairing this. And there's the telomeres coming in all de-threaded, and they're being repaired. Kind of nice. Telomerase is an enzyme that adds DNA repeats to the end of DNA strands in the telomere regions. So it means on the end here, it's adding repeats on the end so that the chromosome doesn't wear out as fast as it would if they weren't there. So this region of nucleotide repeats, I know it's a lot of language, I'll explain it really simply in a few minutes here, called telomeres, contain non-coding DNA material and prevent constant loss of important DNA from chromosome ends. So the DNA down here doesn't really matter like the DNA matters in here, because the instructions for rebuilding the chromosome is right found in the nucleus of it. Right there, very important. But if the ends are not kept together, then they're going to come apart and you're going to lose all the DNA in the center of the chromosome. So, as a result, every time the chromosome is copied, only 100 to 200 nucleotides are lost, which causes no damage to the organism's DNA. So that means if the telomerase is doing its job, your chromosome is able to repeat without any defects in it. That means if it repeats with defects, you're going to produce disease. You're going to produce cancer. Wow. But if it repeats without any malfunction or damaged DNA, you're going to get health. Isn't that fascinating? You're finding this interesting? Rather, isn't it? Is stress in our lives going to rob us of life? Big time. Big time. So now, also, telomerase is a reverse transcriptase that carries its own RNA molecule, which is used as a template when it elongates telomeres, which are shortened after each replication cycle. So each time your chromosomes replicate, the telomeres shorten. The telomerase makes sure they stay intact for you. Very, very nice. Now here's something shocking. Peace and happiness actually lengthen your life, and stress shortens your life by how they affect your telomeres, and in particular, telomerase. You're going to see something shocking. And the investigation there and all the findings are backed up right there. For every year a person takes care of a chronically ill child, you age 6 years on your telomeres. 6 years. That is shocking, isn't it? Now, this would also go for a chronically ill person you're looking after. It could be a father, a mother, this kind of thing. Anybody, when you're looking after them. This is what it does. It ages you. Tell me something. Do you think there's hope for this? There's hope. There's hope. So I'm not going to let you go home thinking, I'm never looking after anybody again. No. No, there is hope. And do you need to look after people? You really do. But how is your attitude? Is it stinking thinking? Or do you have joy in your life? Do you have joy? Joy, oh boy, that's not joy right there. That's New York City, right? Stress, right? What causes the making of telomerase? It's made by joy, happiness, laughter. It produces telomerase. And what does telomerase do? It repairs damaged telomeres, increasing the longevity of the body. So now how important is joy? What does it say about God? He is what? Joy. Joy in His presence. Do you realize something? We were made to experience joy and to express the feelings that are on our hearts. We were made to express them. And oftentimes, our feelings that we are feeling, whether they're sad or anything, are repressed. And if we are unable to express our feelings, we are going to rob ourselves of health. Totally rob it. So, here are my findings. Excessive pressures, worries, and anxieties are not stress. In order for them to become stress, you have to make them so. You have to make them so. God cannot make you happy. Satan cannot make you sad. You must choose. In any situation, you can choose the good. Christ died to defend your right to choose. Now, these are things that are hard for some people to accept, but this is the truth. Your mind reacts to what you see, hear, taste, smell, or touch. Your mind reacts to that. Please remember it. But your brain can also react to situations created only in the mind. Even though the situations are not real, your mind, by default, makes your body think they are. And your body responds accordingly. Have you ever heard of the people that have taken placebo pills and they had the effect of the pill? These things go on. It's very true. Also, stress is your brain's response to real sensory input as well as imaginary created input. Remember Dr. Robert Sapolsky? He realized that the stress mechanism is the same, whether you just think it or whether it actually happens. It's the same. How important is it to clear your mind? Really clear it. It is so important. Your brain is intimately attached to every single cell in your body. Totally. Now, why don't zebras get ulcers or osteoporosis or stress? Why don't they get that? Well, it's simply because they do not spend their day with their bodies bathed in stress hormones. And so sicknesses tends to elude them. They just don't get sick like that. They may get eaten from time to time, but they don't get the things we do. Now take a look at this. This is so important. We may behold and admire the work of God in the natural world, but the human habitation is the most wonderful. And I've really augmented that. That's the human habitation that I focus on every day. I see her. And this is where the attention needs to be. The world, it's beautiful, all these shots I managed to get. It's beautiful. But I tell you, compared to what God has made in man, it all pales by comparison. Totally pales. So now, I want you to see something rather interesting. Are you one of those people who look in the mirror and all you can see are the things that are wrong with you? How many can say guilty is prescribed, as pronounced? Is that not a human weakness? You might see the nose is not right or something is wrong. And the woman, she's, oh, I got cellulite happening in here. Maybe you think I'm not right proportioned. I'm wrong totally. That's stinking thinking. You can't do that. You're killing yourself by doing that. Do you realize you're hindering your healing process by finding the things that are wrong with you and dwelling on them? I'm going to share with you some interesting statistics here. Look at these guys. We ought to be thankful for who we are and for what we've been. When you look in the mirror, you should have a smile on your face, not because you're funny looking, but because you're happy for what you've been given. Yeah, it's so important, to think on these things. And I put these pictures up here because these are ALS patients, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And you see the muscles wasting away. The reason why this interests me is because this is what my father died of, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Eventually, the nerves just peel away. They don't work, and the muscles can't work right, and the hands can't work right, and eventually they can't swallow. And eventually the lungs shut down, they can't breathe, and they suffocate to death. And usually they last about 10 years, giving them a long time, so quite a few less than that. And so this interested me a great deal as I started investigating the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, medical doctor. And he had to go against everything he was taught to find what you're going to discover here tonight. And it's true. It's so true. So here he is, Dr. Gabor Mate, author of When the Body Says No. It's all about stress. Dana Johnson, a researcher friend of mine and a registered nurse, even recovered from Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, by learning to respect all aspects of her body. She was in a wheelchair. She said her body felt like jelly in a wheelchair. That's the stage she had arrived at. And from that stage, she arrived back at perfect health. This is unheard of. What did she do? Would you like to know? So simple, so profound. Unconditional appreciation was what she developed for her whole body, beginning with her hands and focusing on a different body part every day. She looked in the mirror and she said, well, I have completely unconditional appreciation for my hands. And she began for 15 minutes she spent each day. I love my hands. What did David say in Psalm 139, verse 14, wasn't it? I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and that my soul knoweth right well. David looked at his frame and his whole body and he realized the beauty. Do you know that each one of you are so beautiful? You might not think so because of your shape or things that you find wrong with you, but you are beautiful. Christ has said so. He knows who you can be and what you are, and he died for here. And here's where beauty begins, and it's also where ugliness starts. And you've got to start thinking about a God who loves you. He loves you with an unconditional love. You need to know that and understand it. You may look in the mirror and find things you don't love, but he loves all your imperfect parts. And you've got to start saying to yourself, if you want to heal, hands, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I love how you operate. Thank you, Lord, for making me to be able to see and experience this. 15 minutes. The next day, you might go to your forearms. Wow, how those muscles move. Maybe go to your chin, your ears. Explore your whole body and love yourself in the context of being thankful for what you've been given. God made an incredible creation, and we ought to acknowledge it. Do you know that? My soul knoweth it right well. This can provide you with a healing that is unbelievable. Then doing all the right things becomes a real benefit. It's like the icing on the cake, but it starts from inside here. Totally inside here. Dr. Gabor Mate said, she came to see that since childhood, she had believed that in order for it to be of service, acceptable to others, and worthy of herself, she had to sacrifice her own needs. She became everybody's doormat. Whatever she had to have for her life didn't matter. It was providing for others. This provided her with a very low self-esteem. Often people with ALS are very congenial people. They do whatever people want. They're people pleasers. They're high achievers because they think their worth is found in what they accomplish. Often. And they're very happy people, the ALS people. This is in over 90% of the cases, especially with Dr. Mattei dealt with. And he saw this common denominator. Wait till you see what takes place. Oh, it's so exciting to see and understand. In cancer research, this is from Sandra M. Levy and Beverly D. Wise, the psychosocial risk factors and disease progression. This was 1988. Very well documented things. The researchers found that emotional factors and social involvement were more important to survival than the degree of disease itself. People who pictured cancer as, where's my grave? How long do I have? How long do you think they survive? People who have that self-esteem, that have a social network that doesn't say, oh, you should have the chemotherapy and the radiation and the surgery, you should have it. People who have that, hey, whatever you do, we're with you. We're praying for you. We're going to do all we can to find out what's good that we can do. Get you laughing, get you joyful, get you happy about yourself because we love you as a person. Do you realize how much good that would do for a person suffering from cancer? The mind is a huge vehicle in the healing of the body. Don't ever underestimate it. So I hope you're learning something new here tonight. And you're going to have a greater appreciation for yourselves, each one of you. You need to have that. In most cases of breast cancer, get that, most cases, the stresses are hidden and chronic. They stem from childhood experiences, early emotional programming, and unconscious psychological coping styles. They accumulate over a lifetime to make someone susceptible to disease. Dr. Gabor Maté found all this out in his research. And that's all to be found too in his book, When the Body Says No. He's done a massive amount of research and he's got all of his references right there. You can't deny it. It's so true. One of the chief ways that emotions act biologically in cancer causation is through the effect of hormones. Some hormones, estrogen for example, encourage tumor growth. Others enhance cancer development by reducing the immune system's capacity to destroy malignant cells. It's the stresses, it's the doubt, it's the discouragement, it's the onslaught of people that are convincing you you've only got a short time to live. This causes stress and this suppresses the very immune cells your body needs to destroy the cancer. And have you noticed there's so many cases of cancer where the foods aren't working. The exercise isn't working. This disease isn't disappearing. It's getting worse. They seem to be doing everything right. But guess what's missing? And I'm not saying it's the cure-all or the be-all, but I believe it's missing in far many more cases than people are ready to acknowledge. How well do we make people feel? You know something? If a person would just understand something, how much God loves you, this can make a huge difference in a person healing. I've seen this happen, and Jeannie's experienced this too. On a cleanse program where we had a man who was convinced God didn't love him, nobody loved him, everybody hated him. When he discovered God loved him, guess what disappeared? Within days, his esophageal cancer. You know, within days. He got back into stressful situations and things came back again for him. But it was gone. Absolutely amazing. And he was so happy, full of love of life because he knew now God loved him. He said, I could die in peace. I know God loves me. Amazing what can happen. Hormone production is intimately affected by psychological stress. Psychological stress. Now, these are natural killer cells. There's a picture of one right there. This is called the NK cell, natural killer cells. When these attach to a cancer cell, they literally destroy it. If there's stress in the body, the NK cells are not produced. Therefore, the cancer cells cannot be destroyed by the immune system. There's many more things I'd love to share with you about the immune system. That's been my study too for years and years and years, the immune system. I love it. So here it is. Here's an actual cancer cell being attacked by an NK cell, wiping the thing out. Isn't that amazing? And yet stress will repress the production of the NK cell. Estrogen will proliferate, but NK cells, the immune system, put on hold. Wow. Research has suggested for decades that women are more prone to develop breast cancer if their childhoods were characterized by emotional disconnection from their parents or other disturbances in their upbringing, if they tend to repress emotions, particularly anger, if they lack nurturing social relationships in adulthood, and if they are the altruistic, compulsively caregiving types. Now, you may think this is a lot of craziness, as Dr. Gabor Mate did, but he said he couldn't refute the evidence. What evidence? It's incredible. This is called right here, it says, particularly, emotions, repressing emotions, particularly anger. This is not saying that when you feel upset, you need to get angry and scream and yell. It means you have to deal with it. You have to go to the source of what's causing your anger, your upset, and deal with it in a non-emotional way, resolving it so it does not become hidden inside you, creating a suppressed immune system and giving you a very bad coping style that you use all the way through the years to build up more and more and more stresses. Deal with situations as they come up. If someone upsets you, what does the Bible say? If you go to the altar to make your offering and you remember that your brother has aught against you, or you against your brother, go and make it right with your brother, and then go and present your offering to the altar. And if he receives you, all well is well. But if he doesn't, you've done the right thing anyway. You go and you say, I've got a real problem. You said something there. I really get upset. I just wanted to hit you, but I had to leave. I was so angry with you, and please forgive me, but I just had to let you know that. And I didn't want to carry this with me, and then probably it would break out in an onslaught against you at some point in time. I want you to know it really bothered me. Do you realize how much that would do for you? And if the person accepts it and goes, I didn't know that I upset you that way, then they have in turn caused their health to be improved and yours. And they say, I'm really sorry. Do you realize how you'll feel after doing that? You'll feel free. It's like, I'm not carrying this weight load. It's over. If we would deal with things in truth, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you what? Free. Tell the truth. Don't repress it, but tell it in love. So your mind can be free, your body can be free from disease. And then eat right, live right, sleep right, right? Wow, look at this. In one study, psychologists interviewed patients admitted to hospital for breast biopsy without knowing the pathology results. That means they didn't know what's wrong with them from a lab test at all. Researchers were able to predict the presence of cancer in up to 94% of the cases, judging by such psychological factors alone. That means the things up here that were listed, like what kind of did you have a disconnection from your parents, and talk to them psychologically, like have you got any stresses in your life? Are there any unresolved angers or anything? They could tell 94% accuracy which one would have the cancer and which one wouldn't. Now, if that's not amazing, what is? The same research was done in Germany, and they were 96% accurate. So how much does stress have to do with disease? I suggest it has a tremendous amount to do with disease. And do you know what to do with it? Deal with it. Don't let it fester. Deal with it. Deal with it. It is so important. And there's psychological identification of breast cancer patients before biopsy. 1982. Why is it you never hear about these things? Cancer is big business, my friends. Big business. Okay. Satan is the originator of disease, and the physician is warring against his work and his power. We think we're dealing with disease. No, you're not. You're dealing with the enemy of souls. That's in reality who we're dealing with. Sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. What's that sentence say? Sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation here. Is that not clear? Does this not back up the statistics I just shared with you? Here. Oh, repressed emotions. We pray. How many suffer from it? Unreal. Perhaps some living home trouble is like a canker, eating to the very soul and weakening the life forces. And now you can see why. Why that is. How is that important? The state of the mind has largely to do with the health of the body. Oh yes. Also, if you are in constant fear that your food will hurt you, it most assuredly will. Every cell in your body will only believe what your brain tells them to believe. They are as dependent upon your brain and your thinking as we are upon God. Also, and they can only do what your brain tells them to do. If you've got a die attitude, then you've deadened your cells. If you have a happiness attitude, a live attitude, then you've sent that message to every single cell in your body. Every single cell. So, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Philippians 4. Now, does that scripture take on a whole different meaning for you? Do you see how deep the Word of God goes? You can't exhaust the resources that are open to us as Christians. And I suggest to you today, go home, do these things. Look in the mirror and be thankful for who you are, what you have, the shape you have, even the cellulite or the stretch marks or anything. And by the way, cellulite, stretch marks, I'm going to be dealing with that. I'm going to be doing that in your external thermometer. And can these things be reversed? Tune in. I think you're going to be shocked. Totally shocked. Can they be reversed? There's hope for everything. You know that? So, hang in there. Remove the stinking thinking. And get your life together with the life giver. You see, you're designed to be happy and enjoy living in life. And if you're not, something's wrong. I hope tonight has helped you to make a decision in a right direction. God bless.